Have you ever stopped to think if one single decision, maybe made under pressure at work, especially when money's involved, could actually unravel a whole career, like a decade-long career? Is a momentary lapse, a slip-up, really enough to get fired? Or does it point to something, well, deeper, a bigger breach of trust?
That's the core question, really.
Exactly. So today, we're diving deep into a Supreme Court case that tackles these very questions. It gives us some pretty crucial insights into accountability and that tricky employer-employee relationship, stuff that matters way beyond just the people involved in this specific case.
Absolutely.
Our deep dive today is focused on a really key case from the highest court. It's the Peninsula, Manila and Sonja Vodusek, petitioners, vs. Edwin Jara, respondent.
Okay.
The GR number for those following along is 225586, and the decision came down on July 29th, 2019.
Got it. 2019.
So our mission for you today is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack the facts, follow its pretty complicated journey through the courts, and then really pull out the main legal principles from the Supreme Court's final ruling.
Sounds good. Let's get into it.
All right. So to really understand what's at stake here, let's start with the person at the center of it all, Edwin Jara. He built a pretty solid career at the Peninsula Manila. Started way back in 2002.
Right.
By 2009, he was captain waiter. But then, after almost 10 years, his job just suddenly ended in 2011. And it all came down to one single incident.
Yeah, that one night. It happened on July 22, 2011. Jara was working the closing shift at the hotel's Escolta buffet.
Okay.
Part of his job, a key part, was reconciling the cash he had on hand with the transaction receipts and the hotel's own internal micro system, standard procedure.
Sure.
But on this night, he found an overage. P6500.00 extra. The sales receipt clearly showed P7113.08, but the register paid only P6013.00.
Oh, okay. That's a significant difference.
It is. And, he initially told his supervisor, Jimmy Tabamo, that he was having trouble balancing the books.
So he did report something initially.
He did report difficulty, yes. But here's where things took a turn. Tabamo told him, naturally, go double-check everything. But Jara then came back and misrepresented things. He said the transactions were reconciled.
Huh.
He submitted his report, remitted the cash according to the lower amount, and crucially did not hand over that P6,500 excess.
So what did he do to make it look balanced?
Well, this is key. He intentionally posted the P613.00 amount in the system, matching the incorrect tape instead of the actual P7113.08 from the sales receipt, essentially falsifying the record to make his report balance out.
And the P6500?
He just kept it, put it in his office locker.
Okay. That decision right there seems problematic. But what happened next is also really important, isn't it? His actions after that moment.
Oh, definitely. They really didn't help his situation at all. What's quite telling is what he did, or rather didn't do, immediately after.
Right.
He didn't come to work the next day, July 23rd. Now, that happened to be his birthday, but he was actually at the hotel he dined at Escolta that day.
Interesting. He was physically there, but didn't address the money issue.
Exactly. Then July 24th was his scheduled day off. So it wasn't until July 25th, 2 full days after the incident,
Just later,
that he finally mentioned the overage, and not even to his direct supervisor. He told the hotel's internal auditor about it.
And what did the auditor say?
The auditor gave him pretty clear advice. Surrender it to your supervisor. Straightforward.
Makes sense.
But even then, Jara didn't do that. Instead, he gave the money to another captain waitress, asking her to put it in a safety deposit box for safekeeping.
So avoiding the direct chain of command, it seems.
It certainly looks that way.
So the hotel must have reacted pretty quickly once this all came to light.
They did, understandably. On July 27th, just a couple of days after he finally mentioned it to the auditor, they issued him a memorandum to explain.
Formal process starting.
Right. It detailed the charges: dishonesty, specifically for failing to inform them promptly, for the misrepresentation about reconciling, and, of course, for falsifying the receipt.
Okay.
An administrative hearing was held on August 11th, and the outcome on September 28, 2011 was his termination. The grounds were misappropriation or falsification and dishonesty.
Pretty serious charges.
Absolutely. And, the Supreme Court later pointed out something crucial. The whole case really turned on Jara's own admissions.
Even though he had justifications.
Yes, because regardless of his explanations later, he admitted he kept the overage initially, and he admitted he didn't tell his supervisor straight away. Those core facts, admitted by him, were the bedrock for the legal fight that followed.
And what a fight it was. It's fascinating how the same set of facts could be seen so differently as the case went up the legal ladder. Let's trace that path. Where did it start?
It started, as these cases do, with the Labor Arbiter. And perhaps surprisingly, the Labor Arbiter actually ruled in Jara's favor.
Really? How come?
They found he was illegally dismissed. The reasoning was that they didn't believe he acted with dishonest intent. They saw it more as a lapse in judgment.
A lapse in judgment. Okay. So what did that mean for him?
It meant the arbiter ordered his reinstatement with full back wages and other monetary benefits, a complete win for Jara at that stage.
Wow. So lapse in judgment versus something more serious. How did the next level, the National Labor Relations Commission, the NLRC, see it? Did they agree with that assessment?
No, not at all. The NLRC took a completely different view. They reversed the labor arbiter's decision entirely.
Okay, so a total flip.
Total flip. The NLRC found the dismissal was valid. They focused on Jara's dishonesty, the misrepresentation to his supervisor, the tampering. They saw it quite differently.
So now we have conflicting decisions. Arbiter says illegal dismissal. NLRC says valid dismissal. Where did it go next? The Court of Appeals.
Exactly. It went up to the Court of Appeals, adding, well, yet another twist to the story.
Did they side with the NLRC or go back towards the arbiter's view?
They went back towards the arbiter's view, essentially. The Court of Appeals reversed the NLRC's decision.
Okay, so back again. What was their reasoning?
The CA held that Jara's actions, his lapses, as they put it, couldn't be considered grave. And crucially, they weren't, in the CA's view, indicative of intentional or willful breach of his employer's trust.
So, not grave enough. We've got lapse in judgment, then dishonesty, now lapse, but not grave.
Precisely. You see the problem. The labor arbiter, the NLRC, the Court of Appeals, all looking at the exact same incident, the same facts, but coming to wildly different conclusions about what it meant legally.
And that kind of disagreement is exactly why cases end up at the Supreme Court, right? To get that final definitive answer.
Exactly. It sets the stage perfectly for the Supreme Court to step in and provide clarity.
Okay, so this brings us to the final showdown, the Supreme Court's decision. The big question hanging over everything, the one you listening are probably asking too. Was Edwin Jara illegally dismissed?
That's the ultimate question they had to answer. And it's important to understand how the Supreme Court approaches this. Generally, they aren't supposed to re-examine the factual evidence. They're not a trial court.
Right. They usually focus on questions of law.
Correct. But there's an exception. When the findings of fact by the Court of Appeals directly contradict the findings of a body like the NLRC, as happened here,
Which it clearly did.
then the Supreme Court can review the facts. And they explicitly said so in this decision. They stated they were constrained to reverse the Court of Appeals findings precisely because of that contradiction with the NLRC.
Okay, so they rolled up their sleeves and looked at the evidence again. Where did they start? They had to look at the rules for dismissing someone for loss of trust, right?
Yes. The first requirement for that kind of dismissal is that the employee has to hold a position of trust and confidence.
And Jara argued he didn't, right? He said he was just a rank-and-file captain waiter, level 8A, not management.
He did make that argument. And you might think, yeah, captain waiter, maybe not a trust position in the typical sense.
But how did the SE see it?
Well, the SE clarified something really important here. They explained there are actually two main classes of positions of trust.
Okay.
First, there are the obvious ones. Managerial employees. People who run departments and make strategic decisions.
Sure.
But then there's a second class, and this includes roles like cashiers, auditors, property custodians, basically anyone who, in the normal and routine exercise of their functions, regularly handle significant amounts of money or property.
So it's about the function, not just the title.
Exactly. And the Supreme Court found that Jara, as a captain waiter, responsible for handling cash from restaurant sales, balancing it, remitting it, he indisputably fit into that second category. His job inherently involved handling significant amounts of the hotel's money on a regular basis.
That makes sense. It's about the responsibility they're given.
Precisely. So check one. He held a position of trust.
Okay, so with that first hurdle cleared, we get to the really crucial part, the second requirement. There must be an act that justifies losing that trust and confidence. This is where the SC really explained why they disagreed with the Court of Appeals, isn't it?
Yes, this is the core of their reasoning, and it's packed with lessons. The SC went back to the undisputed facts. Jara never denied changing the receipt amount, posting P613 instead of the actual P7113.
He admitted that.
And he never denied keeping the P6500 over his side initially. His explanations for why he did it were just found, well, unconvincing by the Supreme Court.
So what standard did they apply? Did they need proof, like in a criminal case?
No, that's important. For willful breach of trust, you don't need proof beyond a reasonable doubt. But it does have to be a voluntary and intentional act. And it has to be based on clearly established facts.
Okay. And the SC found those facts here.
They did. They pointed to several significant details, as they called them, that showed his actions were willful, not just accidental. He deliberately made it appear that the same tallied. That's intentional concealment. He misrepresented such fact to his supervisor, another deliberate act, and he actively tampered with the transaction and sales receipts.
Tampered. That's a strong word.
It is. And the Supreme Court used an even stronger one. They called it pure dishonesty. They saw it not as an error he was trying to fix later, but as a deliberate, dishonest act from the moment it happened.
Wow. Pure dishonesty.
And they drew a really interesting contrast. They mentioned a previous case, also involving a hotel, where an employee with an overage was excused.
Why the difference?
Because in that other case, the supervisor knew about the excess cash from the start and had actually instructed the employee on how to handle it, how to keep it safe temporarily.
Ah, transparency from the beginning.
Exactly. But in Jara's situation, his supervisor was kept completely in the dark. He was completely unaware. That lack of transparency was critical.
So the SC is saying the breach of trust wasn't just about potentially losing the money.
No, they pinpointed it. The breach happened at the precise moment that Jara tampered with the sales record and misrepresented to his supervisor. Keeping the money in the locker wasn't the start of the problem. It was the result of that initial dishonest act, that cover-up.
That's a really sharp distinction. The dishonesty was in the cover-up itself.
Precisely. And his delay in reporting it just made things worse in the eyes of the court.
The 2-day delay.
Right. Waiting 2 days, then going to the internal auditor instead of his direct boss. The SC said this casts doubt on Jara's real intention and compromised his alleged good faith.
Especially since he was at the hotel on his birthday during that time.
Yes. He had the opportunity to come clean immediately with his supervisor, and he didn't take it.
What about his long service? Nearly 10 years. Didn't that count for anything?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's seen as a mitigating factor.
You'd think so, maybe. But the Supreme Court flipped that argument. They said his decade of service wasn't a reason to be lenient. Instead, as a senior employee, he should have been more aware of his duty. He should have been an example for honesty and integrity.
So his experience actually worked against him in this view.
In a way, yes. He was held to a higher standard because of it, and he failed to meet it.
So the takeaway here seems crystal clear. When the evidence plainly shows a willful breach of trust,
When it's clearly borne by the records, as the court put it.
then the employer's decision to dismiss has to be respected. It really underscores the importance of immediate honesty when things go wrong, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Transparency, immediacy, owning up to errors, that's what maintains trust. Concealment destroys it.
And that leads us directly to the Supreme Court's final binding decision in this whole saga.
Yes, the bottom line. The Supreme Court granted the petition filed by the Peninsula Manila. They reversed and set aside the Court of Appeals decision.
Which had favored Jara.
Right. And they reinstated the NLRC decision.
Which had found the dismissal valid.
Correct. So the final word from the highest court was clear. Edwin Jara's dismissal was valid. The hotel was justified in terminating his employment.
Okay. This case, then, really solidifies some important legal principles for anyone dealing with employment law or just working in the Philippines. It's a valuable addition to your mental toolkit.
Definitely. There are a few key doctrines that this case really hammers home.
Let's break those down.
Okay, first, it's a powerful reminder of Article 297 of the Labor Code that used to be Article 282. It explicitly lists fraud or willful breach by the employee of the trust reposed in him by his employer as a just cause for termination. This case is a textbook example of that willful breach.
Got it. Article 297. What else?
Second, the clarification on classes of positions of trust. It's not just about having manager in your job title.
Right.
If your regular duties involve handling significant money or property like Jara did with the cash sales, you're in a position of trust, plain and simple. That broadens the scope considerably.
Okay, crucial distinction. And the third?
Third, It really spells out the elements for dismissal based on loss of trust. You need both things. One, the employee holds a position of trust, either managerial or handling significant assets. And two, there must be a willful breach of trust.
And that breach needs solid proof.
It needs to be based on clearly established facts, but again, not proof beyond a reasonable doubt like in criminal law. The employer just needs substantial evidence showing the employee's actions were intentional and broke that trust. This case showed exactly what that looks like. Integrity is judged by actions.
Actions, not just intentions after the fact. Very clear. So this case really serves as a stark reminder, doesn't it? Workplace integrity isn't just about avoiding, grand theft or major fraud.
Not at all.
It's also about how you handle errors, discrepancies. It's about being transparent, immediate, and truthful, especially when things don't quite add up. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What small, maybe seemingly minor lapses in reporting, or perhaps a lack of full transparency in your own work environment or your organization might, if they're not addressed, just slowly chip away at trust over time. Something to definitely mull over.
It is. Those little things can accumulate.
We genuinely love to hear what you think about this. Drop your comments. Let us know what insights really struck a chord with you from this deep dive. We do read them.
Please do.
And hey, if you found this deep dive valuable, if it gave you something to think about, please hit that subscribe button. Leave us a review if you can. It really helps others find the show. And of course, join us next time as we keep unpacking complex topics like this one, trying to turn all this information into real insight for you.
See you next time.
Don't just hear the news, understand it with the deep dive.